Boom, boom. Ugh. Off the back, off the back. That's where the knives go. Alrighty then. Let's get it. Impresa. Alright, let's get into it. Podcast, I think this is 225. I want to say 225. But yeah. I'm truly, thoroughly convinced that women love chaos. Now, excuse me. No, I'm 1,000% that women love chaos. And see, here's the thing. Obviously, it's not a blanket statement. Trying to apply one thing to everybody, obviously, that never goes. You can't apply just one thing to everybody. You can't say, oh, men are this way and that applies to all men. You can't say women are this way and that applies to all women, obviously, right? But I think, generally, I think that women are addicted to chaos. So, here, I'll tell you a story. And I know plenty of people who have been through this when it comes to the whole chaos thing. So, I remember some time back. Sorry. Damn, I need some water. So, I remember some time back. And I was talking to this young lady. And mind you, we were never in a relationship. And we were just in this talking phase. And then at one point or another, obviously I was talking to her. Then I was talking to another girl at the same time. And she had found out about this other girl. And I guess she already had her insecurities. She saw me. She saw my page. And it was like, oh, I bet you're a hoe. I bet you get all the girls and this and that. She already had her suspicions. Just judging a book by its cover to begin with, right? Because a lot of people do that. A lot of people see you and they say, all right, well, I bet you get a lot of girls. And they make prejudgments. That may not necessarily always be the case. But unfortunately, sometimes it is. And it wasn't necessarily the case then. You know, I was busy. I'm focused on my craft. I'm focused on my path. Focused on my purpose. And so one of the girls go to the other girl and she's like, oh yeah, do you know him? Because I guess one girl's looking at one girl's story and she's like, oh, who's this? I'm like, oh, I mean, somebody I know, right? I didn't say I was fucking her. I didn't say I was talking to her. I didn't give details because it was really none of her business. We're not in a relationship, right? Yeah, we didn't agree to any exclusivity. We're still getting to know each other. Was I fucking both of them? I was. I'm just being honest. We're just being honest here. And see, the thing about it was, so I was just like, I don't care. I didn't think she was gonna actually message. I was like, oh, you go talk to her. I don't care. I don't care. So she actually went and messaged the girl and started talking to her. So, you know, obviously one girl I liked a little more than the other. And let's say the one that I liked a little more, let's call her Mess. All right, let's say Mess. So Mess I liked a little more than Flower. And Flower's actually very close to her name too. So Mess was a girl who just had a whole bunch of insecurities. And to her, I was, you know, I would say that I was a little out of her league. Meaning she wasn't in mine. I would say she wasn't in mine. By the way, guys, if you're on TikTok, double tap the screen. And thank you for the gift, whoever said that. So I would say that she wasn't in mine. And she constantly had these insecurities. But messaging this other girl, she found out that I was, you know, talking to her too. Now, the girl Flower, she kind of exaggerated about the amount of time that we were talking. She kind of just let her business out there. And this made Mess a little, you know, upset. And she started accusing me of things. It was like saying, oh, how could you do this? How could you do this? How could you do that? I can't believe that you're like hooking up with this girl. Da 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 da. All this nonsense. She's like, I hope you're using protection and this and that and the third. And I'm just like, listen, I understand that you're upset. I understand that, you know, how you feel right now. But let's be real about some things. One, we're not in a relationship. You are not my girlfriend. Now, of course, this girl liked me. You know, we were hooking up. She said it was the best she's ever had until this point. And obviously, I know what I'm doing. So, and then the other girl, she was upset too, but not as upset. And so what I did was I gave them both a moment of silence. I just said, you know what? I don't have to answer to either one of you, because they were acting as if I was in trouble. They were acting as if I had to answer to something like, oh, I got you. And I was just like, oh, no, you didn't. Because guess what? I'm not in trouble. And I was very honest and transparent about it, you know. And she was like, oh, I thought you said you weren't talking to anybody. No, when I told you that 2 months ago, I wasn't. But now I did. And I even told this girl, I was like, you know what? Like, you accused me a lot of things, and I'm not even doing anything. At that moment in time, I wasn't. And I guess it was like a self-fulfilled prophecy for her, because I guess I kind of started talking to somebody. But the point was, neither one of them stopped talking to me. Neither one of them stopped talking to me, and they both wanted to continue talking to me. And what I seen was they became very invested. They became very invested, although it was something that they said they didn't want. They didn't want to talk to a guy who was talking to multiple women. They didn't want to talk to a guy who, you know, who was also having sex or hooking up with somebody else. But when I go back and look at the situation, it's like, well, if that was the case, how come you just didn't stop talking to me? How come you just didn't go and start talking to somebody else? And I'm sure you guys are talking to other people, so why not? Now, interestingly enough, with this story, Mess didn't do that. She didn't go back and she didn't go back to talk to anybody else. She didn't go back to hook up with anybody else. But Flower did. Flower went back to her ex, and she claimed that all he did was eat her box, right? And interestingly enough, she told me this, and she told me this thinking that it would make me upset. Maybe she told me this trying to get revenge, trying to, I guess, have whatever effect that it would have. But unfortunately, I wasn't that invested, and me and her were only talking for a few weeks. And I guess she did it thinking that it would make me upset. And in the event of telling me that, I said, okay, cool, I respect it. And then after that, I didn't just cut her off right away, but slowly I stopped talking to her. And I stopped talking to her because she showed me a very vengeful attitude. She showed me if something happened that she didn't like, if she didn't think it was fair, she was going to react, and she was going to be vindictive. And if you watched any of my podcasts, you watched any of my videos, you know that that's a part of the filtering mechanism when you get to know a woman. Anybody who's vindictive and says, oh, I'm going to get my lick back, instead of just leaving or not tolerating something or being patient and waiting till you have that level of exclusivity, then that's not a woman that you want to wife. That's not a woman you want to get in a relationship with. So with Flower, what I did was, I said, okay. Obviously, after that, when she wanted to continue to hang out, I said no. And I kept making excuses as to why I didn't want to see her. But Mess didn't do that. Mess, she complained a lot. She whined a lot. She said, oh, da, 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 I can't believe you did that. I'm like, ma'am, we're not in a relationship. Ma'am, we didn't agree to any exclusivity. You can talk to whoever you want to talk to. But she's like, oh, I don't want to. I think I'm starting to love you and all this craziness, right? So Flower eventually was like, what's going on? You don't want to see me anymore? I was like, no, I don't mind talking to you. I don't mind being cool, but I think having sex with you is not something I ever want to do again. And she was devastated. When I say this girl begged, and I mean begged, I'm not even exaggerating, this girl begged to have sex with me. Like literally begged. Like she was like, "Can you just get over it?" Then she got mad, blocked me, unblocked me, and my answer was still the same. It was no, because, and then she even said that, "Oh, you made me realize I'm over my ex because, I was gonna go have sex with him, but I didn't. I just let him eat me out." And I'm just like, right. Well, I'm glad it took you letting him eat you out, right, while you're talking to me, to go do that, and yeah, we're done. And then she was like, "Oh, but you're so much better. You look better. You have elite sex and this and that and the third." I'm like, "Yeah, well, thank you. I'm aware. It's one of my talents in life. One of the things that I bring to a relationship, right?" But still, the answer was no. So, in that, I filtered out a woman that was vindictive, a woman that was bad for you. And I think that just knowing myself alone, I think that, when you are talking to a woman, and I feel as if you don't need to have anyone else. And I think it's a red flag if you're going to be hooking up with more than one guy while you are trying to get to know somebody seriously. Now, it's okay for anybody to do that, but if this is a girl that wants to be taken serious and says she wants to be taken serious and doesn't want anybody else, but then goes do something like that, her emotions overpower her, or either that or it's a front. She's lying about something. There's something wrong there that you need to take into consideration, and that's not the type of person you want a wife. Now, Mess on the other hand, she didn't do that. She did a whole bunch of complaining, but long story short, I cut Flower off, and then Mess eventually we stopped talking to, because I guess some of the habits that I have, some of the things that I did, she just wasn't okay with. Like me just going places and not saying anything, me just, taking flights and not saying anything. But mind you, this wasn't my girlfriend. I didn't have to do anything. I didn't have to tell you about my whereabouts. If we were working towards a relationship, okay, cool. It's something I would take into consideration. But what I do, I don't have to tell you anything. I don't have to check in with anyone. I'm a grown-ass man. And even furthermore, it's just not a part of who I am as a man, right? That's just my personality. I just go and do things, and I don't say anything about it. And I don't really see the problem if I decide to go to another state for business, if I decide to go on a family vacation where we all link up and we haven't been together in a long time. I just not someone that's big on explaining myself, and I never have. I haven't been questioned a lot since I was a teen. My parents haven't questioned me in a very long time about my whereabouts, right? Unless it's been days that I haven't been home. So this woman didn't like that. Long story short, she cut me off. And I'm like, all right, cool. So then she was like, "Oh, you need to," I guess she blocked me via text message. And I'm like, all right, cool. So then, like, every once in a while, she'll message me on Instagram. I'm like, okay. So I don't have any hard feelings. And it didn't bother me neither here or there. But for her, it bothered her. And this was something she was very upset about. So I would still send her messages here and then, like, completely unbothered, like funny memes. And she's just like, "I think it's funny how you can just send me all these memes and this and that and the third." But then eventually, she started to tell me how she was talking to some new guy. I'm like, "Oh, wow, look at you talking to somebody new." And then you got the nerve to judge me. She's like, "Well, when you went on your family vacation, when I bet you was with a bitch, da 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 da." And I actually showed her pictures from my family vacation where I genuinely was on a family vacation. She felt stupid. She definitely said, "I'll give you $100 if you can prove it." She never gave me the $100. Never fucking gave me the money. Like, never. Not like I needed it, but it was like, all right, at least take me out to dinner. And this woman is consistently telling me about the new dude and the treatment that she's getting and how she loves it so much. And then I'm just like, okay, well, I don't, I'm like, okay, well, I hear you out. I'm like, oh, we should, like, meet and talk and just, like, cool. And just, like, you have your closure that you needed. But then as I saw, as days went on, she continued to talk to me. She continued to tell me about her treatment and how, like, I messed her up, and how, like, this guy is such a nice guy and he's been through what she's been through, and how she didn't want to be talking to me. I'm like, okay, you don't want to talk to me, just block me then, right? You can just block me and you don't have to talk to me. Now, I didn't want to stop talking to her, but I didn't really care whether I did or not. It was like one of those things. Like, she was still a really good girl. She's good looking. We had an amazing, sex. And it was like, all right, well, I mean, I would again, but I didn't, I don't know whether she hooked up with this dude or not. I don't know what she was doing with him or nothing. Um, but, I'm just like, all right, cool. So, long story short, some days roll by and I'm still talking to her. She didn't block me. She's like, oh, I shouldn't be talking to you. I shouldn't be doing this. This guy would be so upset at me if he knew I was talking to you and this and that and the third. But what I saw was she started to have this battle, right? Because she wanted a certain type of treatment, but she didn't want it from necessarily this guy. She wanted it from me. And because of, I guess, whatever neglect, I guess, when we were talking, I wasn't able to hang out as much as she wanted to. She did live in a different state. You're talking over an hour away, or maybe about an hour, some change away. And she was very upset at that. And she said because of that, I didn't treat her good. I didn't make time for her. But I didn't necessarily treat her bad, right? I wasn't abusive. I wasn't verbally abusive. I didn't call her names. When we went on dates, I would pay. I wasn't a bad guy. It was just the neglect and the lack of attention that she received, and what she referenced as me treating her bad, which I guess she was getting from this other guy now. But she continuously telling me how, oh, this guy's doing this and this guy's doing that. And believe me, when a woman is telling you that the treatment she's getting from one guy should be you can still fuck that girl. Because her emotions are so involved. She's so caught up on who you are. She wants to be with you so bad that one, she's not over you. And two, she jumped into a situation trying to get over you, thinking that it was so easily just to replace you when her feelings are still caught up on you. And it doesn't work like that. You just can't replace somebody, especially when she's a good girl. Now, you do have some whores, right, who will just sleep with one guy one day, and then the next day will start to just, hook with another guy, and it's nothing to them because they built this up within them. That's something that's a part of them. Not all women can do that. A woman that's a good woman, a woman that's just not used to just sleeping with anybody all willy-nilly, they're going to have a hard time with it. And just as I'm saying, she was a good woman and she was having a hard time with this. Now, I don't know at that point whether she was hooking up with him. She claims that she wasn't. And she claimed that they went on some dates, they kissed, but she claimed that she wasn't exactly over me yet. So eventually she gave in and we met. And I already knew it. I already knew from how she was acting. I already knew that because she couldn't get over this other guy, it was up. And I had it in the bag. So I was being very diabolical. And I said, hey, we sat down and talked. And I know I could have grabbed her and just kissed her as soon as I saw her. She's laughing, she's talking, and I think the previous day I had sent her a video with my shirt off. And I was just talking to her. I could have just sent a voice note, but I didn't. And she was like, you're not slick by sending that video. And this is a girl that's genuinely attracted to me. Genuinely sees me as an ideal guy for her. So long story short, at the end of us eating and sitting down and talking, I hooked up with her. And she felt so bad. Why? Because this went against her paradigm. This went against something that she's so against. She protests against that type of behavior so much. And I genuinely think she was. I don't genuinely think she was that kind of girl to do something like that. But nevertheless, she did. And it's because her emotions were so riled up. And this guy gave it to her so easy. And she was so used to the chaos or whatever chaotic situation that she got from me in our situation. Now she's trying to deal with a good guy. And she, I guess you can say she trauma bonded, right? She trauma bonded. Guys, if you're on TikTok, please double tap the screen. Let's get the likes up. So I guess she trauma bonded, right? And now she's addicted to this. And mind you, this is a girl who said, this is the best sex she ever had. I'm genuinely a good person, very charismatic. When we're together, it's fun. There's no problems at all. Everything is great. But it was neglect. And all the traits that she liked, she tried to compensate for one and left behind all the others that she didn't like. So it's like saying, oh, this guy has 9 out of 10. This guy has 1 out of 10, but it's the special one that I want. So I'm going to go with this guy, and I don't really care for everything else. He's a good guy, and I think I'm a good woman, and she probably is. So she's going to go for that. But deep down inside, that's not what they want. And a lot of women can try to compensate for what they didn't get in their last relationship, trying to get into a relationship with another, thinking that that is the end all be all when it's not. And because they trauma bonded with this last person and it was so chaotic, and they abruptly tried to leave the situation and they weren't ready, they find themselves in a worse situation because let some time go by and they realize they're not turned on by this person. And really because this person is giving them everything they want, but they didn't have to work for it. It came too easy, right? There was no build-up. Actually, when you're getting to know somebody, you want attraction to be something that grows, something that, you just don't get off the back, right? That kind of takes the chase out of it. That kind of takes the fun out of it. So now you're in a situation and it's like, well, you got everything. Now here's boom. What is there to work for when in that last situation, it was a thrill. It was a roller coaster. You didn't know what was going on. You had very high emotions. Then you had very low emotions. Oh my God, he's talking to another girl. Oh my God, he's amazing. We just had sex and we went on a nice date. It was so beautiful. He's so charming. Like, oh my God, it's amazing. I've never come this much, right? It's just so many high emotions. And then, boom, back down. He has sex with this girl and oh my God, I can't stand him. But he's so amazing when I see him. And he calms me down. He's so charismatic. And I guess he does have a point because we're not in a relationship. But that extreme of highs and lows is the very thing that makes a woman addicted to you. And that's not something that your average guy who says, well, I don't want to have to play games. I don't want to have to play these games. I'm not going to play these. Yeah, you're not going to play these games and you're going to get fucking played. If you can't play the game, you're going to get played. If you don't know the game, you're going to get played. And a lot of people don't understand relationship dynamics and how they work. Right? And that's what gives me a job. That's why people will pay $2,200 for coaching. Because when they get serious results, they understand that women are this way. Not all. But I would say the majority, which is why 80% of divorces are happening. And then most of them are initiated by women. Because men believe that you have to give a woman her way. You have to empathize and sympathize with her. And her feelings are more important than yours. But really, that's a mutual thing. But in a relationship, somebody always rules over the other, right? It's just the way things are. But a lot of women and a lot of men don't understand this. And even if you haven't been through anything chaotic with that woman, a lot of the times these women have in the past. And a lot of the times you'll see that a lot of these women get very bored. A lot of these women get like, they get in situations and a guy is too nice, right? And this is where you have your traditional nice guy, where a guy is too nice and the guy is,